Alrighty, and good evening, everybody. This is Pastor Sherman Ray, and this is Christ and Culture. I want to welcome you all to the broadcast. Hope everybody's doing really well. This is once again, it's been another one of those weeks, guys. It's been. I don't know if if it's just getting more hectic, whether because it's getting closer to Easter, what's going on, or something like that. But Easter is right around the corner. This is actually Holy Week, and so we're hoping that that we can actually, by the grace of God, shine a light on what's going on here in America. And it's been crazy. This is Christ and Culture. We come to you once a week, talk to you about people, places, trends, events that are going on. and no show would be complete if we didn't have Pastor Tommy Allums here. Pastor Tommy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Pastor Sherman. How are you?
I'm doing really well too. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We're both almost. I was working on my tan today because I
didn't get a chance today.
You didn't have a chance today?
No, not yet.
It's getting a little light-skinned there, and so it's working on my tan a little bit. Going to play golf with the kids a little bit.
Nice.
So, Pastor Tommy, you invited my wife and a couple other folks, a whole table of people, to a Seder dinner on Saturday, or was it Friday?
It was Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah.
I want to thank you first and foremost, but can you got to give us a recap on what it was? I'll tell you right now, I had a great time. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you guys for coming. It was a blast hanging out with you guys and fellowshipping and eating. But that was actually my first Seder, and it was very eye-opening to see the traditions brought down from the time of Moses and the foods that they eat and why they eat it and what they meant, the songs that were sung. It was just really eye-opening on the history of Israel coming out of Egypt, but it also signified a lot of things for today that point to Christ. And so I just thought that was pretty good. I took some notes. I even learned, I knew this, but I didn't see it from the Jewish perspective. They left in haste, right? They left Egypt, the house of bondage, in haste. And the Bible calls leaven sin. So they didn't have time to put leaven and let the yeast rise in the bread, because that takes time. My wife is actually making some bread right now, and she's letting it rise, and it takes time for it to rise. But the Lord said, get out now, make haste to get out. And I thought that was interesting for us today, because we should be leaving bondage immediately. Don't give place to sin. And I think a lot of people give place to sin, but we shouldn't be. We should leave that bondage immediately. And I just did a word study on it, and all this stuff came up. Who knew?
Who knew? Yeah, I know. There's so much symbology in the whole meal, right? And I want to thank the church we were at, more a messianic type church. A lot of Hebrew spoken, a lot of symbolism, a lot of bringing that out. And I've gone to a few Seders before. Some are more intricate than others. This by far was probably the most intricate. It was definitely the longest. I mean, it was probably 3 or 4 hours that we were there.
Was. Yeah.
And now I can see why people would get drunk at those things. Right? Because if they were drinking wine, every time they did the drinks, they drank wine, I could imagine them falling over eventually. And that's probably why they changed it to, juice. So
yeah, some of them actually do drink wine.
Do they?
Yes.
They're always smiling by the end of what a great meal he has. You ought to go over to Shmuley's, next time. Great time, and to love your wife, love your daughter that were there. And we had a couple other friends, Aaron and Cecilia Newtons were there. Yes. And of course, my lovely bride was there. So had a great time. So hopefully next year we'll be able to go again.
Yes.
And so you meet with the pastor there on a weekly basis, or you've gone a couple of times before?
Yeah, I've been to a Bible study. I'm actually looking forward to go back because I learned some more Jewish traditions that actually carry over,
Hmm.
and I've always wanted to learn more about Judaism and
Hmm.
how it connects to Christianity. And just recently, I've learned,
Hmm.
I didn't really know this, but I guess there's a sect of Christianity that actually um, don't consider themselves a part of the Jews. It's like the Jews are finished, and that it's called replacement theology. And I
Yes.
didn't know anything about it. I'm like,
Sure.
how could they read scripture and say that the Jews have no place? It's all about
Yes.
Christians now. I'm like, that don't make sense, but it really is eye opening.
It's yeah. Well, that's why there are, and we did a study on this. Some that there are about 45,000 different denominations. Uh, I think in America or in the world, one of the two. And so you can imagine each one of them says we've got a lock on it. We're the ones.
Yeah,
And so this whole replacement theology, yeah, that's probably just it's not really surprising that somebody would go to that place, but
yeah,
it is what it is.
yeah.
So I want to remind everybody if you're watching us on our YouTube channel on Christ and Culture, it is we're up now. I'm going to go ahead and go to it right now, and let me turn down the sound here. So we are there right now on that page right now. So if you'd like to get along or get in on the conversation, go ahead and jump on there. We'll take a look at that from time to time, and or if you want to send us an email, you can send it to Christ and Culture Show. That's Christ and Culture. You got to spell out the word and. Christ and Culture Show at gmail.com. That's Christ and Culture Show at gmail.com. Well, Pastor Tommy, we've got a story that I want to get to, the first story of the day. And the lady we've got on the screen here, she's the Wisconsin clerk of Wisconsin clerk of the from the where is she from? She's from Madison, Wisconsin. Her name is Maribeth Witzel Burl or Bell, and she resigned on Monday. A mayor's spokesman said, and the reason why she did that is because she forgot to count some ballots. Yeah, this is a pretty big story. So, as the story goes, this is an AP story, and it says Madison Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway, their office announced that this clerk uh, resigned on Monday. The mayor's spokesman, Dylan Brogan, said that this clerk submitted her resignation on Thursday, but the mayor didn't announce it until a couple of weeks later because she had a contract. And here's the deal: is that she forgot to count some ballots. I don't know how she forgot to count some ballots, but she did. She forgot to count some ballots, and when she did so, evidently it did not affect the outcome of the race that was last year. But they're getting sued. They're being sued by a group of people, 4 people, Madison voters, who are suing the city for $175,000 apiece as a result of this. So here's my question to you, Pastor Tommy. You've got people around the country who are, and this is we multiply this by how many counties are in every state. How often do you think something like this is happening? And do you think how many people don't report this stuff at all? And elections are changed or decided as a result of something like this.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it happens way more than is brought to our attention, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that there's way more people who are not bringing it to anyone's attention, and it's being swept under the rug or overlooked. Um, that's terrible,
Mm-hmm.
And she resigned.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they should overturn that resignation into a termination. Not only
Mm-hmm.
because that she failed to count those ballots, but now because the city, I think it's the city, not the county, right? I think it's
Yeah,
the city.
city. Yep.
The city is being sued for $700,000.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just cost a
Yeah.
whole lot of money to the city.
Hmm.
If that was any other private job, you're definitely going to be fired
Oh yeah.
for that and
Oh yeah.
possibly sued.
Well, here's the interesting thing about it. Here in Las Vegas, where we're at right now, there is a group of hackers that meet once a year, and and part of the way they show how cool they are is they do a realistic hack on something, and I believe this year they went through to see if they could hack into the voting machines that you and I use on a every 4 years. And sure enough, I think it took them all of 90 minutes, and they were able
Wow.
to hack into all of them. Now they're
Wow.
like, so it seems like everybody only thinks there's one, you know, company that actually does these voting machines. Oh no, there's a lot of these voting companies. Some of them they use, some of them they don't use, and they basically said, oh yeah, we could do this, and we could affect, and you would never even know we're here. And
Wow.
and that makes you think to yourself, why don't we go back to paper ballots? You, I just think it'd be simple. Go back to hanging chads, dimples. You go into a
Yeah.
voting booth. Here it is. Pencil, paper. Okay. Oh, can you still hear me?
Yep, it's clear now. Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry, I pushed something again. And you go into the ballot, and you've got a thing that's got a bunch, and you fill it in. That's it. That's my mark. That's it, right?
Yep.
That's what you do. Okay. Why is it so hard for these folks to realize that we are the most powerful nation on the planet, and we can't even get voting correct? And even if we do vote, it could take, and in some cases, these folks, it takes them a couple of days to
Yeah.
count these. So talk to me, Pastor Tommy. What do you think is the biggest, one of the biggest things that they have wrong with our voting here in America? Do you think?
I agree with you. Some things should not be electronic
Hmm.
because it's too easy to be manipulated. And I think that they should come out with a system. And I know a lot of people are colorblind, but I was thinking of a color. Red and blue. Go figure. You know, when
Hmm.
you walk in, hey, are you red or blue? I'm red. Grab the red, go in there and stamp it or whatever, and then that's it. That
Hmm.
makes it so much easier to count. You don't have to look on there. You can probably just throw them in a machine at that point, and they can pick out which one is red or blue. I don't know, but you're right. It's almost like somebody doesn't want that to happen
Yes.
because they can't control it that way. They'll have to control people, which is a whole lot harder to do in that instance than to control a machine. So yeah, you're.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And
agree.
yeah, and well, and to expand on that idea, we've actually got so there's a ballot measure going through right now, and basically what it is, the lawmakers are saying, look, we want to make it so that our voting is a little more, tighten it up a little even bit more. So they're saying, here's a novel idea. You have to prove that you're a U.S. citizen to vote on federal elections.
Yes,
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's the first thing.
Well, people got a problem with that though. They're saying, "Oh
Of
no,
course.
you can't do that. Really, you can't. Really? Well, that's you. Well, guess what? Black folks aren't going to be able to do that. That's their biggest thing. Black folks can't do that. Black folks are just too doggone ignorant to go out and get a license. It's racist, right? And that's their biggest thing. It always goes back to this, that the only people that cannot vote are black folks because we're just too ignorant to we can do everything else, right? We can clean their houses. We can I guess we can even play football or something like that, but we can't go out and get an ID to vote. We can get it to
What's so
drive a
sad?
car, right? Go for it.
Yeah, what's so sad about that is people fall for it.
Hmm.
that's the sad part. It's one thing if you just, throw a joke out there, but people just, just believe it and just fall for it. I don't know. What are you gonna do?
Well, let's hope. I hope that goes through. This is actually something I've heard over the last couple of days. Is that now? I don't know if you have one already. It's called the Real ID,
Yes.
and you were actually required to get the Real ID. They started doing this well over 4 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna
Well,
say 5 or 6 years ago.
yeah, it was over, and so if you were getting an ID, if you were getting driver's license or something like that, they ask you, would you like to get a Real ID? Because you're going to have to get it in a couple of years, and it doesn't take any extra little bit of time. Yeah, you go yes, okay, mark right there, and we'll give you a Real ID when you get your driver's license. Okay, nothing big, and so now they're going to require it. So I think in the next couple of years, you're actually going to have a Real ID to get into certain buildings.
Yes.
But by the election in another 4 years, you're not going to be able to vote in a federal election without showing ID. Now, here's the interesting thing about it. So I'm watching the news, and there's a guy on the news. He is a former sheriff down in New Mexico, I believe it is, something like that. He says, I was part of the people that they said had to prove that I was a citizen. He goes, 80,000 people in Texas got on this list that they said, hey, we don't know whether you're actually a citizen or not. Something's a little kooky about your ID. He was one of them. And he says, he goes, I don't mind. I'll go down there. I'll prove who I am. He got no problem with it at all. So if he, who is a law enforcement officer, has no problem going down, why would anybody else have a problem going down? You answer that question for me. Why would they have a problem with that?
That's a great question because in the business that I do, I'm gonna kind of answer it in a long roundabout way. In the business that I do, I meet with all kinds of people, and there's certain documentation that I need from them in order to get them pre-approved, right? It's only a certain sect of people that balk at these things. It's all I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Why do you need that? My question is, why do you need $500,000 with no proof of who you are, where you work? Which, you know what I mean?
What?
So, going back to what you said,
Sure.
some people do have a problem with presenting what's needed in order for them to do what they want to do, right? They just think that they have a right to do. I just have a right to do whatever I want to do with no checks and balances, and they balk at the idea of being questioned. It's okay to be questioned.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, with much responsibility, with great wealth comes a lot of responsibility, right?
Yes.
And you're given, I mean, to vote in a federal election in the United States of America is a huge, huge responsibility. And people are just going, oh no, just give it away to anybody. Anybody can do it. Anybody can. No, this decides who's going to be your legislator, which means who's going to draw up your laws, who's going to represent you, who's going to do a myriad of things that are going to happen. And people are going, no, just go ahead and we'll just let anybody vote. And it's because it's our right as an American citizen. You're right. It's our right as an American citizen. It's not your right as somebody who walks across the border or somebody who happens to live next door to you. Okay, he may not be an American citizen. Okay, you probably remember a lot of the movies we saw as kids, and they would show Rome, right? Rome was like this place where they had all these laws and all these thinkers. Not a lot of and a lot of freedom for Roman citizens, right? And if you're a Roman citizen, you could go in. You read it in the New Testament, right? Paul says, "Hey, you can't do this to me. I'm a Roman citizen." They're thinking of beating him, and they're thinking about doing this to him. He goes, "No, I plead to Caesar," right? And he said, and they went, well, what do you mean you plead to Caesar? Because I'm a Roman citizen. You can't be doing this stuff to me. And so they have to take him, and they've got to go through all this stuff, right? Okay, the same thing happens here in America. We're American citizens, and you have a lot of responsibility, and you have a lot of rights, and it just seems we as a society are just giving it away to anybody and everybody. And I think we need to really kind of check ourselves. I mean, what do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely, because we're actually downgrading our level of I don't know, not professionalism. What's the good word?
Mm.
It's like we're downgrading
Our rights and privileges, or
our rights and privileges as a society.
yeah,
You know,
sure.
it's without rules. You know, everything goes haywire. It's all chaos. And that's just a part of it. You know, there's a group of people who like chaos. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we've all ran into that person who loves drama, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, oh no, here they come again. What kind of drama do they have? But there's groups of people that have that same drama
Mm-hmm.
that wants to bring drama wherever they go. You know, I don't know about you, and I'm pretty sure you're the same way. I don't like to hang around people who are full of drama all the time. Everything's
Yeah,
bad, everything's negative. You
sure.
know, everybody's against you. You know, it's like I don't, you know, but there are a group of people that are out there like that
Oh yeah.
that wants to take away that foundation that this country has so that they can
Yeah.
do whatever they want to do.
Yeah. And I think that's scary. I mean, that's a scary place. Or it's that you co-opt, or that you allow people to do that in our own country. You know,
Yeah.
they wonder why people fight so viciously, or so vehemently, um, when somebody says, "I'm going to take your gun away from you." Okay, you know, those rights and those privileges that we had were there for a reason. I mean, they're there for a
Yes.
reason. As a matter of fact, I was talking to some of the kids at school that I work at, and they had no idea that they could actually, that their parents, I mean, they can't, I mean, they're kids, right? But that when they grow up, that they are able to actually have a gun. They go, what? Mister, a gun? I go, well, yeah, a gun. That is your right. That is your right and your privilege as an American citizen. It's your Second Amendment gun right. But there are people who want to take that from you, and I don't think these people understand that's there for a reason.
Yes.
And so you know, Pastor, I mean, since we're talking about this, guys like George Soros. Okay, George Soros comes into our nation, and he hates America. He hates anybody who's got money, because he wants it all for himself. He hates anybody with power because he wants power all to himself. He hates any Christian because Christians have God. You know, he hates anybody. He's just a hater,
Yep.
right? And so he
Yep.
goes into town after town after town, just muckraking. That's what he does, and he finds other people to muckrake with him, and he funds them. Why don't enough people, Pastor Tom? Here's my question to you: why aren't there a group of people who are in the areas where he goes to, just standing up against him and saying, "No, this is my country. You're not going to come into our country and do this."
Well, there's a couple answers for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One is ignorance, because people are ignorant. Just like you just said, you know, you were talking to the kids in school. I learned in junior high that we had a right to bear arms. I learned that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I knew that too from my parents and grandparents. Um, so it wasn't like it was like a big shock.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the second thing is, which I think is more important, is that the church needs to pray. I know I say this all the time, but the church needs to pray. And here's what I mean by that: there are territorial spirits that are over every area,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if we got together, like we're starting to do more and more with a group of pastors, we have to start praying over the territory that we're in, because we're called as kingdom citizens to go and take the land. That's what Joshua did, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the whole reason why they left um, Egypt, is to go take the land that God gave them. So where God sends us, we're supposed to subdue the land, just like in Genesis chapter 1, subdue the land. But it's not just a physical land. There are spiritual wickedness in high places that we're coming up against, we're warring up against. And the way that we overtake those is through prayer, collaboratively, as a community, as a body. We need to begin to pray to tear down those strongholds and bring awareness to people, so that when people like him come in to try and disrupt, we're like, nope, we're not allowing that to happen. And then we can reroute those spirits to leave where we're at. And that's what we're called to do, but we haven't done that yet until now. We're starting to do that because we're starting to see clearly, understanding our spiritual authority. And so I think those two things is where it's at.
I think you're right. I really do. I'm praying that the churches will wake up. And like you said, I was really surprised even at the Seder we went to, because there's, I mean, yes, there are a lot of Seders going on in Las Vegas, but there's a lot more non-Jewish pastors in Las Vegas than there are Jewish pastors. There's a
Yes.
lot more Jewish pastors, excuse me, non-Jewish pastors than there are even Jewish families. I mean, there's a lot of
Hmm.
pastors in town, but we were the only two at that Seder. Did you notice that?
Yes,
We were the
I
only pastors
did.
there. Um, and you would think that as we get closer and closer to the second coming of Jesus Christ, that there would be even a more of a hunger for finding out what our Jewish roots are. And I
Yes,
know I am. I
me
read some
too.
Hebrew every single day, trying to get a little bit more into it, just trying to figure out a little bit more what they're doing and stuff like that. And do I speak fluent Hebrew? No, but do I know a lot more than I did a year ago about
Hmm.
festivals and about the whole richness of the Jewish, of our Jewish roots? Oh yeah, much more. So I'm hoping, as you're saying, that we just kind of get it together, and that we're able to and maybe find our backbone, find our spiritual
Yes.
backbone here in America. I want to remind everybody that we're right now on Facebook. We're actually on Facebook now. We're on our YouTube channel if you want to check it out. And also, if you want to write to us, you can write to us at Christ&Culture Show@gmail.com. It's Christ and, you got to spell the word and. Christ&Culture Show@gmail.com. And we'd love to get in on the conversation and maybe talk a little bit to you about it. Well, Pastor Tommy, there was I know we've got a lot of stories to get to here, and I want to get through to a few of them because they're pretty important. Something really cool happened just recently. Um, Jeff Bezos just launched his fiancee Lauren Sanchez and a group of other women like Katy Perry, Gayle King, on Monday, all-female celebrity crew on the Blue Origin spacecraft, and they were up in space for about 10 minutes or something like that, and very cool type thing that happened. Pastor Tommy, what did you think about this whole Blue Origin space flight that lasted all of 10 minutes?
I think that that's pretty cool because I was in the Air Force and I missed out on an opportunity to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
guess there's a certain way that you could fly up there and not as high as they were. I think they were
Yeah.
like 300,000 feet or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they're up
But
there.
I think that that's pretty cool. It's got a whole lot more news attention than I expected. But
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was actually pretty cool though.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I I think it probably could have served a little bit more if it was more than 10 minutes. It was
Yeah,
basically a joyride. You know what I mean? It's like get them up
yeah,
there, bring them down, and now they can say, oh, but Katy Perry is going, oh, if we could just make the world a better place as a result of this, and and I was going, oh my gosh, just any moment, any spare moment they get, they try to politicize it. So, anyways,
oh, of
that was
course.
a pretty cool thing. But more importantly, there's this guy here, this so this story was out of, this is an AP story. President Donald Trump and his top advisors met with the president of El Salvador. His name is Nayib Bukele. He's the president. This is not him, actually. Him. That they were talking about this guy that you see here. They call him the dad from Maryland. Okay, he's actually not the bad dad from Maryland. There was a guy, this guy who's pictured here, who was picked up in a sweep of gang people by a border patrol and stuff like that. and he was taken with all these other gang members, shipped off to El Salvador, and big big brouhaha was brought forward. They're saying that this guy was wrongfully arrested, and then they sued, and they got a judge involved in the whole thing. I'm going to read a little portion of this article, because the Supreme Court got involved in this whole thing. It was just that quick. I mean, it's amazing how the Supreme Court only sees a certain amount of cases throughout the year. This guy gets picked up like a week ago. Oh, right to the Supreme Court. Boy, it just got there that quick. Okay, so here's the story. President Donald Trump's top advisors and the president of El Salvador on Monday said that they had no basis for the small Central American nation to return this Maryland man, the picture they showed you, who was wrongfully deported there last month. Bukele, who's the president of El Salvador, called the idea preposterous, even though the U.S. Supreme Court has called on the administration to facilitate the guy. His name was Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And the Trump administration's officials emphasized that Garcia, who was sent to the notorious gang prison in El Salvador, which we talked about before, which is so vicious, it's amazing, was a citizen of that country. So the guy who was deported was actually a citizen of El Salvador, and that the U.S. had no say in his future. And Bukele, who is the president of El Salvador, who's been a vital partner for the Trump administration in its deportation efforts, said, of course, he would not release him back to U.S. soil. Okay, and then he remarked, he said, that'd be preposterous, me to smuggle this guy back into America. He's actually an El Salvadorian. He's a citizen of El Salvador. The Supreme Court says you have to facilitate the U.S. They said you have to facilitate getting this guy back here. And the U.S. is going, well, we're not going to facilitate him. Well, how are we going to facilitate the guy? We can't force El Salvador to release one of their citizens. Interesting stuff. Democrats are going crazy over this. They're going, oh, this guy should be back in USA. Guys, he was an illegal alien. He was ordered to leave this country already. They didn't pick him up, but when they did pick him up, okay, they made a mistake saying that he was a what do they call, the Tren de Aragua guy, but they found out he was an MS-13, but he's MS-13. Mm-hmm. He's gone, okay? Anyways, give me your thoughts on this, Pastor Tom.
So I'm not sure if you saw the press conference in the Oval, and so I understood it just slightly a little bit different. Mm-hmm. That the what court was it? The lower court.
One of the district courts?
District court, yeah. Okay. So the district court judge said that they had to bring him back. Okay. But it was 9-0. The Supreme Court said no, he can't come back. Mm-hmm. And so this is what I thought was pretty interesting. That's the seal of the deal right there, right?
Yes.
The Supreme Court said no, he's not. He can't come back. So he was here illegally. He was taken out.
Yes.
Right. They proved that. 2 courts said that he was He was designated as an MS-13 gang member. 2 courts.
Yep.
So he can't come back. He cannot come back. Mm-hmm. And so you got these reporters asking, well, what are you going to do to facilitate to bring him back?
Nothing.
Nothing. You know?
Right.
Then they had the nerve enough to ask the president of that same country, well, what are you going to bring him back? He's like, what? Am I going to sneak him in? No, I'm not going to do that. That's silly. But they kept asking, like, they don't get it. And you know what I thought about? There's a term in Scripture, stiff-neck. You know, I just think that they're stiff-neck, and that term comes from cattle or oxen or a donkey. When you're trying to steer them, their neck is stiff, so you can't turn their head, because that's how you guide them. And that's what these people are. They're stiff-necked. And they told him, okay, he's a MS-13 gang member here illegally. He can't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how are you going to bring him back? Okay, the Supreme Court 9-0 said no, he's not coming back. Well, what are you going to do to bring him back? They
I
just
know.
kept asking. I'm like, stiff-necked people.
Stiff neck in a relate. So that's a great way to segue to under our next story too. In that same news conference, one of the CNN reporters came instead of asking the president about great things that they're doing, kept going back into this thing, just like you were saying, very stiff necked. And the president said, "You know what? You guys just hate this country. I mean, you just don't. You guys, CNN just you're fake news, and you hate this country because you're not focusing in on the great things that are going on in this country. You're not focusing in on that we're getting rid of all these illegals. You're not focusing in on the safer streets. You're not focusing in on no fentanyl. You're not focusing in on that stuff. You're wondering, are you going to help this guy back in? The Supreme Court said that you have to facilitate. Yes, you have every right to kick him out of the country, but you have to facilitate this guy coming back. So what? For what? For what reason?" And so, great story that they were talking about here. Where, so, is it that the American people are stiff-necked, or is it that the media is stiff-necked?
It's the media, and sadly enough, like we were talking about before, people just believe whatever they hear,
Mm-hmm.
which is dangerous because we've all been given a mind to think for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
but we rather, some of us would rather just watch TV and let them think for us, and we take
Yes.
on their viewpoints and their feelings, and we go and run with it without any thought of consideration of how does this make sense? Because that absolutely made no sense to me. I'm scratching my head, and I can see President Trump and President Bukele just like, are you serious? And we just said this over and
I
over.
know, just said this. Like, what is wrong with you folks? I love the president of El Salvador. We actually spoke about him. If not on this show, I definitely remember you were talking about him before, and we talked a little bit about him. But how he turned his country completely over. But the difference between his country and our country is he had a completely Christian cabinet that all sat down and they prayed about a way to change their country around. Because they were the murder capital of the Western Hemisphere or of the world. And
Yeah.
they said, let's pray, let's go to God and find out what God would have us do. And that's the biggest difference, because now they are the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. Isn't it crazy that we are now sending them our prisoners so that they can take care of them in a little bitty country about this big compared to America, and yet they've got I think they have like 70,000 gang members who will spend the rest of their lives in this jail, super max jail, and they said keep sending them. President, you keep sending as many as you want. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
He got together with his cabinet and prayed. They obeyed God. Now they have the safest country in the world. Imagine if we did that.
Yes.
We have a president right now that's willing to do that,
Mm-hmm.
but we have so much animosity towards him, towards everybody else in the cabinet, and we got chaos. People bringing drama for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's hindering us
Yeah.
from being that great country, that we
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah, I think you said something very interesting. Wouldn't that be great if we could do that here in America? I think you're getting a glimpse of what would happen
Yes.
if you did that in America, because that's what we're trying to do in America right now.
Yep.
Instead of, we send somebody into our federal government and we say, hey, look, take a look at our finances and see where we're spending our money, okay? Do an audit. This is exactly what happens with every business. You go into a new business, you got a new chief comes in, he does an entire audit of the country, of the business, to find out where he's at. President Trump goes in and has, Elon Musk go in. These people go absolutely crazy. It's like you went in and slapped their mama or something. How dare you? Oh, you can't do this, and you're trying to do this, and it's going, wait a minute. You should be happy that we know that this money is going here, there, and everything. And So we're gonna skip over in just a second because I've got to go to a because this I think this story we were gonna go on to a different story, but there was a an audit done. These are called NGOs. Okay, I'm gonna kind of move forward just a little bit, Pastor Tommy, because it's on my mind. NGOs is the story, and this story, who's this? It's a New York Post story, and it says how NGOs, how the Democrat Party used NGOs or non-governmental organizations to do an end run around government. And this is a very interesting story. Really want to get to this, and I want to get to this now before we lose much time. I'm going to synopsize as much of this as I possibly can. But basically, what happened is we saw a. So I'm going to read the first part, and then we'll talk a little bit more. Okay. It says I'm often darkly amused by common examples of inherently false nomenclatures, jumbo shrimp, government ethics, unbiased news media. Okay. And one of our society's biggest falsehoods in name, get this, are non-governmental organizations. Okay. So when you think about these organizations, you generally think about, charities, environmental groups, or something like that, children, freedom, poor, stuff like that. But really what these things are, these are a front. These non-governmental organizations are a front for the government itself. And in the Biden administration, they were the biggest perpetrators of these NGOs, basically doing something with an organization that they could not do in plain sight. Okay? How did they do this? Well, what they would do is they would form these NGOs, and then these NGOs would solicit the government for money, get the money through USAID. Remember, we were talking about that before. We talked about that for weeks. They would go to USAID and they'd go, hey, we need some money for the poor children in, wherever. And then they would take that money and give it to these fighters or this LGBTQ thing or this DEI thing or something like that, because they knew that the Biden administration could not go directly to Congress and say, hey, Congress, we'd like a bunch of money to teach people how to, have sex with little kids. It would be too horrific. But they can get an NGO to do it. NGO gives it a different name. It says, hey, we are the group on blah, 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 blah. And once that money is given to that organization, they have no compunction to tell you how they spend that money. Pastor Tommy, should there be consequences for people falsely claiming that they are an NGO when they're actually a government affiliated organization? And number two, should people go to jail for this?
Yeah, it's fraud. It's what it is. That one story that I saw, I think it was a senator or senator's wife was overlooking one of those NGOs, and she was paid $2 million to consult. So no wonder they're all upset that they're cutting, USA, because they're in their pockets. Yes. You're cutting off my money. And these are frivolous fronts. Yes. It's illegal to do that. Mm-hmm. To have shell companies and run fraud like that. That's illegal to do in the real world.
I think it's a Ponzi scheme.
It's called
fraud for sure. It's definitely fraud.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. It's not a Ponzi scheme. It's a I forget what it's called. It's basically money laundering. Basically,
money laundering. Could it be racketeering? Could it be? I don't know. I'm
racketeering the government.
On a major scale. This is not on a small scale, and this is and part of the thing that with the USAID. That's why people were so up in arms, because we haven't heard anything about USAID in a couple of weeks now. Have you noticed that? Haven't heard a word about. People are going. Please hope they never bring that up again. Don't bring that up. Don't bring up USAID. Shh. Don't say it. Okay, because they know Pam Bondi and her people are looking into this deeply, somebody's going to jail. Somebody's going to jail for a long time. It's and so how deep do you think this goes, Pastor Tommy?
It goes deep. Yeah, it's whew, man. I don't think that the upper echelon is going to get in trouble and pay, but I think not only does it go high and it goes deep, but it's going to go back so far back.
Oh yeah,
It's going to go back
back
decades.
decades. I
Yeah.
think I saw this something about the 1930s are in here. Where, I mean, this is not so. USAID got started in the 60s, correct? Um,
Hmm.
and it started with a noble thing. I think what they were saying is, we need to accelerate this graft. We need to accelerate how we get money from the federal government, because the federal government is like the biggest pot of money that there could be. Taxes, the whole
Yep.
IRS system is just a big pot of money. And somebody's thinking, some mafia guy was thinking, you guys, if we was here, we could show you guys, right? And they go, well, show us.
Yeah.
I bet senators go, they'll show us. We don't care. We want to make some money, while we're doing our noble duty, right? So I bet you this thing goes back. So somebody mentioned this. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. When she went into Congress, was a cocktail waitress. So she was or a bartender. And she was worth probably $2. I mean, she was really nothing. She had nothing. And you know how much she's worth now?
Mm.
And she's only been in Congress, 4 years? I think she's close to $17 million.
Wow.
So so I want you to think about this. Let's say she made $500,000 every year, because she doesn't. She makes like 170,000. Okay. How does she make $17 million in only like 4 years?
Man.
You're a mathematician. You know this stuff.
That's,
How
yeah,
could she do it?
not legally. Not doing what she's doing. No, seriously. Um, not unless she's invested in crypto. She's heavily in the stock market and she's day trading, but we know that's not the case.
No.
She's got buddies. She's got NGOs.
She's got NGOs. She's got Bernie Sanders now too.
Yep.
So somehow or another, her and Bernie Sanders are hanging out together, and I think she, because you don't hear from her anymore either. You don't hear her at the level. The big girl right now, the big mouth now, is Miss Crockett, and I would have, and before her was what's the lady out in California?
Khalid. Oh.
No, out in California, big mouth.
Waters.
Yeah, Maxine, old Auntie Maxie, right? She was the big mouth before, and you notice she's not saying anything now either. You ever notice that?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Something is afoot when the folks that were the loudest are the quietest now. They're going, maybe nobody will see me. No,
Yeah.
Eric Swalwell, okay,
Yep.
Adam Schiff, not saying anything. He's really quiet now. Even so all these people who were the cabal of hate are very quiet now, and I bet you once they start looking, Pam Bondi, who's the Attorney General, starts looking and lifting up the sheets. Who do you think she's going to find at the bottom of that stuff? So you give me your guess, Pastor Tommy. Who do you think is going to be some of the biggest people who are probably going to be gotten?
All those people you named.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe except for Bernie Sanders. I don't know. He could be. But yeah, all those people you named, and going back to Pelosi.
She's gonna be a big one.
Yeah, that's gonna be huge.
She's the queen bee.
Yeah.
She really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Yeah. Okay. I mean, I know we diverted there a little bit, but I had to get to that story because it's just, I think it's going to probably be the biggest one. I really, really do. That they're going to probably figure out that these NGOs were a front, and there are people. So, who's the lady in Georgia? Um, she ran for governor in Georgia. Stacey Abrams ran for governor in Georgia, didn't make it, denied that she had actually lost to Brian Kemp, I believe it was. And so she got a $2 billion, billion with a big B. I don't know how to say it, B. She got a $2 billion. The year before, when this organization she was a part of was only around for like a year. Mm-hmm. And they gave her $2 billion, and they said, well, before you get this money, we need you to take a class on how to do your books. Before that, they only had $100 in their name, $100, and now they got $2 billion. So this is going to be, I believe, you're going to find that they're going to start going, how often has this happened? Let's start finding this out. Anyways, let's go on to the next story. So there's a guy. I don't know if many of you know who Josh Shapiro is. So Josh Shapiro, let me get his picture up there. So Josh Shapiro is the governor of Pennsylvania. And recently his home, the governor's mansion, was firebombed. And there's a guy who, actually his name is Cody Balmer. He was the suspect in the story. This is a New York Post story. Pennsylvania man accused of firebombing Josh Shapiro's mansion was out on bail when he allegedly carried out the arson. His name is Cody Balmers. His mother said that she kept trying to get the police to arrest her son because he's a nut. Well, when they finally did get a hold of this guy, and he actually turned himself in. He said, "I think you guys are looking for me." He's 38 years old. When they arrested him and finally started carrying him in, he gets on TV and he starts making all these goofy faces, and he's sticking his tongue out, and he's like crossing his eyes or something like that. So I hate to be callous about this. The news is like going crazy over this guy because he's a nut, and he should be, this is newsworthy. But what happened with the guy who tried to assassinate Donald Trump? Where's he at? The guy who was sitting with a scope and a rifle waiting to shoot the president. Okay, where's the intrigue and where's the interest in that guy? Yes, this guy who went after Josh Shapiro is a nut and should be put in jail the rest of his life. But where's the news? Where are all the news anchors when Donald Trump was going through his stuff? And where's the level of interest at? Am I wrong, Pastor Tommy, that there should be more interest in the...
That is amazing that it's happening like this. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, where's the guy that's... It's like there's no investigation. There's nothing being talked about it. Mm-hmm. Instead, they want to argue about bringing a non-innocent guy back to the United States. They rather argue about that mm-hmm. than to talk about, I don't... Yeah, that's amazing how news is just kind of divided up like that.
Yeah, and once again, we don't condone anybody going after anybody. That in a civil society, I think we should be able to, talk things out. We should be able to vote things out or something like that. But that hasn't happened. The same thing is happening with the Tesla guys. The guys who are blowing up Tesla stations. The guys are going around writing things. So Pam Bondi. So she's the last. I love Pam Bondi. I really do. She's just like boom, boom. I love that thing about her. She's basically told, because she's found another person who not only firebombed these Teslas, but also went to these dealerships, and they've designated those folks as domestic terrorists. Mm-hmm. And so she said, look, this last guy, he'd done it twice, and they're going to give him 40 years in jail, no ifs, ands, or buts. They're not plea bargaining, nothing. So she's on TV and she goes, you know what? we're not going to give him any offers. We're not going to do anything. You're going to jail for 40 years. And so what say ye, Pastor Tommy? Is it fair?
Well,
Is it just
yeah.
desserts? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, domestic terrorism, that's one thing that you learn in the military real quick. Terrorism is no joke.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like well, it is like treason.
Mm-hmm.
You were born and raised here, you're from here, and you created a terrorist activity against your state, against your government. And yeah, I agree with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know some people are in disagreement with it, but when you understand how the government laws work, it's terrorism. And
Oh yeah.
people just say, "Oh, I just shot out a window and started a fire." That's they labeled it domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw that, because it happened right near my house, and I
Yes.
understood what
That's
it
right.
was,
Mm-hmm.
I even said it on here. I said that is domestic terrorism.
Oh yeah. Sure.
They're not playing around.
It's funny if Pam Bondi had been in office at the time, if we had still a control of both houses of Congress, that first year of President Trump's administration, remember that summer of love? We got all
Yeah.
these people burning down cities from, from Oregon, and they were doing it in New
Yep.
York, and they were doing all these places, and they're burning down the city. None of that would have happened because they would have all been in jail. They really would have. But we did not have control over this, and lawlessness ran rampant in this country. I mean, it ran rampant in this country.
It,
But now you got a whole different thing going on. I mean, Trump is like saying, let me tell you something right now. I got a real big stick, and I've got Congress behind me, I've got the Senate behind me, and I've got all of the ducks in a row of all the law enforcement I need to quell any of this stuff. And the Democrats can squeak and squall all they want, but it's not going to do them any good. So this guy who's going to go to jail, he's a 40-year-old man. He identifies as a queer scientist, charged with two separate acts of arson in New Mexico. One targeted a Tesla outlet, and the other one was a GOP headquarters. His name is Jameson Wagner. He's a registered Democrat, supporter of a variety of left-wing causes, according to social media posts, and he supports Black Lives Matters. All cops are bees. I'm not going to say it. But he's a member of 500 Queer Scientists, his group, which calls itself a visibility campaign for LGBTQ plus scientists. Well, I know where he's going now. He's going to be in a place where guys like other guys who like other guys. Yes, he's gonna.
From what I hear, it happens quite a bit. He'll be at home, I guess.
He'll be at home, and he'll be high in cotton, what they call it. It'll be, that's what you want. That's where you're gonna be at. It's just kind of a sad commentary on what's going on in this world. Last story. I'm gonna make it really quick here. Many of you know this woman right here. No, she's not the binder. No, this is Christy Todd Whitman. Excuse me. Miss Whitman here. She went to the Oval. Whitmer. Sorry, I was wrong. She went to the White House. This is the governor of Michigan, and her name is Gretchen Whitmer. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. And she went to the Oval Office to try to advocate for her people. And of course, the cameras are flashing. She decides, I don't want anybody to see that I'm actually here in the Oval Office, and I'm actually in the Oval Office, and I'm trying to speak to the president about the things that are going on. So she puts a stupid binder up in front of her face because she doesn't want any of her Democrat buddies to find out. Here's my question, because we only got a couple of seconds left, Pastor Sherman. What is wrong with Democrats? You got to tell me, what is wrong with these people?
Stiff-necked.
They're stiff-necked. There is something wrong with these people. Who do they work for? Here's my question. Who does she work for? Does she work for the people of? Does she work for Michiganders? Is that what they call them? I think they're Michiganders.
I think so, yeah.
Does she work for them, or does she work for the Democrat Party?
That's a good question. Or is it another entity that she works for? Yeah, that's a great question.
Hey, I started an organization called the Black Business Chamber of Commerce in Las Vegas. I'm a conservative.
Oh, you started that?
Yeah. I'm sorry,
I didn't know that.
Yes, I did.
No. So
yes,
we met before, probably way back.
Oh yeah,
years ago.
Oh, years ago. Yeah. And so I started this organization, and we are not a part of the Urban Chamber. Okay, the Urban Chamber does their thing. We did our thing, and and so the Trump administration came to town, and they called me up and they said, "Hey, Sherman, would you like to meet?" She's now the education person. She's the head of the NEA. I forgot her name. Linda McMahon. So Linda McMahon was coming into town. She tried to contact the government. The Trump administration tried to contact the Urban Chamber to get them into the same room with the. And so Linda McMahon was the SBA administrator at the time. Okay, so she's got a bunch of money, telling everybody, "Hey, I got a bunch of money. Come and get the money." The Urban Chamber would not meet with her. Why? Because they were a part of the Trump administration. They called me up and they said, "Mr. Ray, would you like to meet the SBA administrator?" I go, "Yes, I would." So I represented, it was me, the Latin Chamber, the Vegas Chamber, the Asian Chamber was there, and then me, right? There was only like 5 of us there. And the head of the Nevada State Bank was there, the SBA administrator, so a cabinet member was there, and her entourage. So let me ask you a question. Did the Urban Chamber serve their people, or were they serving the Democrat Party?
They were serving the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that instance.
Because guess where they were at the next time a SBA administrator came to the Valley? They were sitting right next to me.
There.
They were sitting right next to me. And they were going, "Hey, Sherm, how you doing? Who's the guy next to you?" I go, "Oh, he's part of the Urban Chamber." And they were saying, "Oh yeah, we're the Urban Chamber." Blah, 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 blah. And I was going, "Yeah, you dirty sons of guns." I don't like this at all. Okay, if you are serving a constituency, we're running out of time. If you're serving a constituency, whether there is a Democrat or a Republican office, you need to serve your constituency. Our job as Christians is not to pray against a president. Our job is to pray for whoever's there, that they would see Jesus, and that that Jesus would reign in their hearts. Okay, we can't just say, "Oh, we can't talk to this guy because he's a pagan," because they're all pagan.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, Pastor Tommy, I gotta let you go. We're running along here. Thank you once again. I cannot wait to get with you and the wife. I love you, and maybe tell your daughter that we'd love to even have her with us.
Okay.
Next time we meet. Okay.
All right. Good.
All right, Pastor Tommy. We will see you again next time. Okay.
All right. God bless.
God bless you too, and we'll see you in just a bit. Okay. Well, anyways, folks, I want to thank you once again for being a part of the show. We ran a little bit long here. We want to let you guys know that we will have the show up on our social media. It's actually up on Godstream right now. It's up on YouTube, of course, but we'll have it up on Spotify. We've got a couple of episodes that we didn't get up over the last couple of weeks. We'll get those up also. So look for that. Go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts. You'll be able to get it. Or you can check us out on Godstream TV. Okay, Godstream TV. And you can check out the whole thing. Anyways, this has been Pastor Sherman Ray for Christ and Culture. Thank you once again for being a part of the broadcast, folks. We will see you again next week for more of Christ and Culture. Have a wonderful day in the Lord. We'll talk to you later, okay?